Okay. So I'd like to ask Robert Piquel if you could offer a prayer to begin things.
Yes. Join me in prayer. Most loving Heavenly Father, we're so grateful, Father, that we've come to know you, your lineage, your ideal. There is so much ahead of us and so much behind us. But we need to walk well and with your guidance and move forward. We want to open our ears to hear clearly what is being presented. We want to open our hearts that we can understand and feel your ideal and know what direction it's in. And I ask for your guidance and your wisdom as we speak our words one to another, that it can bring joy to your heart and that it can help us become the sons and daughters that reflect your love and your ideal to you and each other. I want to offer this as the Piquel Central Blessed family and all the Central families gathered here. Adieu.
Adieu. Okay, thank you. Again, thanks everybody for coming. Just to recap, we're fine, Mio. We'll start off with a financial review of 2017, and then we'll go into general questions and answers. How does this work? Here. What do I press? The green arrow, Rio?
All right.
Okay. Okay, so we actually have two organizations. One is World Peace and Unification Sanctuary, and another one is Unification Sanctuary. And the lines between those two organizations is not exactly totally crystal clear yet, but it was thought that by the king and Kukchinim that it would be good to have a second organization formed. So last year was the beginning of Unification Sanctuary. And the way it's kind of evolving is that Unification Sanctuary would be activities related to the King's Report and things happening in the future, Rod of Iron Ministries. So King's Report, Unification Sanctuary would be the parent, and then King's Report, and then Rod of Iron Ministries. And then World Peace and Unification Sanctuary would be more of the activities involved in Sanctuary Church here and worldwide. So that's, but that's not set in stone. That's just kind of something that's kind of evolving as time goes on. Oh, that's the, okay. So what we'll go over with today is these are some of the main categories. Palace investment and operations, Rod of Iron Ministries, ceremonial robes and crowns, sanctuary church improvements, celebration, holy days, workshops, legal matters, and future projects. But before we get into that, I thought it would be good just to, I really like this picture because it really shows the king and Kukchinim's love and devotion to Father. And as we all know, the history in the last 4 to 5 years that in terms of finances, the entire financial foundation that Father built up over his entire public ministry was lost at the time of Father's passing, when it became clear that that the second king was not going to be allowed to step into that position of second king on the worldwide foundation that Father built with the Unification Church Family Federation. And also much of the financial foundation was lost at the time of the UCI situation where I think it's $2 billion were taken from the Family Federation at the time, Unification Church, and was taken by UCI. So the foundation that Father built through his ministry was really meant for the second king, and the third king, the kingship line. But unfortunately, because of the disobedience and the situation that occurred, then the king and his brother had to leave the entire financial foundation. And as everybody knows here, a huge amount of blood, sweat, and tears went into that foundation. Brothers and sisters, primarily in Japan, but really all over the world, really gave everything to support the Lord of the Second Advent. And it's a tragedy that financial foundation was lost. And the king was in this horrible situation where he had to leave that all behind, because for him to stay would have violated his relationship with Father and the commandment and the mission that Father gave him as the second king. So it was, in one sense, the second king had no choice. He could either stay and be part of the desecration of Christ, or he could leave and keep that pure foundation clean and pure. And so obviously he did the right thing. He left it all behind. He came here. They even took away his car, from what I understand. He didn't even have an automobile. He didn't have any insurance. He had to go on Obamacare, which is unbelievably sad. So he really, I mean, it's really an amazing, heroic story of somebody who was absolutely faithful and obedient to Father. And thank God he had his brother, Kukjinim, who had a foundation in business, and that was really under his name. So Kukjinim also could leave the spoiled foundation, the soiled foundation, I should say, and begin to, through the activities here, begin to rebuild everything that was there. So I think that's the foundation upon the king coming to Pennsylvania was really in a real deficit situation. You remember back in 2008, 2009, 2010, the king was traveling the world. He had the resources, the finances behind him to really be a world-level figure on every level. The Father had given him complete authority, not only leading the church, but actually to perform blessing ceremonies. He and the king and the queen were able, under Father's authority, to give blessing. Father had never done that before. So he really had the entire worldwide foundation to work with. And it was, I think all of us felt a sense of hope, that along with the spiritual authority given to him by Father to lead the world movement, he also had the financial backing to meet world-level figures, to go on planes and go places, traveling, and really reach out to the entire world based on Father's foundation. But all of that was lost when he had to separate from the evil that was occurring, and we all know that. So I just wanted to, preface this financial report with that really the king came here with virtually nothing, except with the generous support of his brother, who has this business operations that he was able to support the king and begin a new ministry. So I'm sorry, did I misspell that, Tim? No, it's okay. So the palace, the purchasing of the palace opening was a huge event. It was not even a year ago. Actually, about a year ago, I guess now. That's when we moved in, but yeah, probably the purchasing, I'm not sure when that actually began, but about a year ago, the palace was purchased. So it's amazing when you think of everything that's happened in 1 year. the palace. So it cost, we put $250,000 down, and that really was a big chunk of our financial reserves that we had. It was quite a sum of money that was put down to secure this. And then we have a mortgage payment of $3,250. Now, this is a property that Cookchinham originally purchased based on real clear guidance. And then Cookchinham put a lot of money. I think Cookchinham understood all along that this was eventually going to be the palace, because even probably a year before the purchasing of the palace, there was already like, yeah, well, King, you have to move here. You have to move here to this property. And the king was actually quite resistant because the king is very humble and he was quite happy just living in a simple home. And the idea of moving to a palace, there was some resistance there. But I think we can see now, and of course the king, I would say, is very, very happy to be there because he really feels Father's spirit, Father's presence, and he's able to conduct so many public activities out of the palace. So we have it's the primary residence of the king and queen, and of course now True Mother living there. It is a place where VIPs can come. It's a very respectable property. So when visitors come, whether it's for the King's Report or VIPs from other countries in the future, top politicians who will come, this is the kind of property it's a very respectful kind of property. And the king is also laying the foundation for really global peace police training.
What was the total price?
Total price, I think, was $1 million. A little bit under $1 million, maybe 900,000. So we had the palace opening. This is the first time True Mother actually came, right at the end of December. And you can see her there in this picture. Got the third king. This is a very glorious moment. It was a beautiful day. It was such a remarkable weather. I think it was in the 40s. It was pretty incredible, January 1st. And so there was quite an expense just to pull this off, to get everything in place to make this happen. It was $36,000 to just do the palace opening, to get all the preparations, everything involved. I want to thank Susan for putting together a lot of these numbers that you'll be seeing. Susan, just so you guys know, Susan is our CFO of the church. And it's great to have her on the team because she brings with her how many years experience in the financials? A lot. Working with real professional companies and bringing a certain standard of excellence to our finances here. And then Chizuko also, on a bookkeeping level, you won't find a more detailed-oriented person who really respects and honors public funds. There's Chizuko back there. Thank you, Chizuko. Huh? Susan Brunhofer and Chizuko Tardy. But yeah, just Chizuko is really an honor to work with because I think she was raised under the Mrs. Arakawa standard, and that's a very high standard when it comes to public money. And she takes that very, very seriously, so I'm really grateful. So, the thrones, pictures, carpeting, the event costs, I think, what was the food situation there? Was that something we did? We did that, yeah. So anyways, events are really quite an expense. Of course, there's a lot of donations that come in at the same time. So, financially, generally it works to the financial benefit of the organization, events. We rarely lose money at events, but it's something that we always have to watch and be careful. Each event needs to have a proposal submitted, needs to go through the financial committee to get approval. Then we'd like to, we'll probably get better at this in 2018, really monitoring each event and have a profit and loss statement for each event. Yeah, feel free to ask questions as we go along if you have any.
This include the painting and fixing the house?
Yeah, there was some renovation work done, quite a bit actually. $28,000. So $28,000 was probably put into renovations. Yeah, well, that's part of the next slide, actually, furnishings and stuff. But this is specifically for the palace opening. But yeah, it was actually quite a bit of renovation, because a family was living in there, a very large family was living in there for several years. So the whole thing, we had some volunteer help as well as we had to pay people. So, you can just look at some of the, all of this, there's money involved. There's, flowers, the acrylic podium, the thrones. I think the thrones were like $800 each. Yeah. This was a $500 expense. Banners, there's always expense. Everything has expenses. So, but in the end, it all comes together. Lourdes does a great job as our event coordinator, pulling all these hundreds of details together into a very harmonized kind of experience. And this is, again, these are like VIPs coming in from other countries. So it's really wonderful now that the King has a place where people can come and feel the presence of God. And so our True Mother, yeah, the stair lift, that was $13,000. It's really, if you've ever been there, it's like she's coming down from the clouds. She comes down and she joins the King's Report every morning, and it's without that it would be impossible for her to live there. So, and then certain things needed to be done to make her stay there comfortable. And so the palace, I really think it is the new tabernacle, where the Spirit of God dwells, and the King has made an extraordinary effort to really make it a reflection of Father's heart, and something that Father would be very pleased with. From the entryway as you walk in, it used to be just very a lot of bushes everywhere, but the King has through a lot of the labor there was really done by the kids and a few volunteers, and they removed a lot of the bushes, thinned out a lot of it, and then over here is the Tunghill Mark. I encourage everybody to come to the King's Report. By the way, as we approach the end of February, it might be a good condition to come once a week and support the King and the morning effort. It's a wonderful way to begin the day. And you can really, it's a tangible way to support the King. A lot of times he'll come out afterwards at breakfast and sit with people. It's a real precious opportunity. So now when you walk up to the palace in the front as well as the back, you really feel Father's heart. So the gazebos have been built in the back and in the front. This is one in the front yard. This is right on the pond. As we all know, he converted the swimming pool into a koi pond. The story of the koi is a very interesting story, where the King had just started to think about getting koi, and then all of a sudden this guy shows up out of nowhere in Scranton selling his entire koi collection. It's just a remarkable miracle, because koi fish, when you buy them individually, are hundreds of dollars. Actually, large ones can be thousands of dollars. And we bought all of them, everything he had, for like $400. It was just a miracle. you know, and he was right in Scranton. You know, he could have been in Chicago, you know, but he was in Scranton, you know. It's just, and literally the king put it out there. 3 or 4 days later, we were talking to this guy on the phone, setting up a time to go get him. It's just a miracle. So there's a lot of operating costs when it comes to the palace. There's the mortgage payments, utilities. Now, Cookchinham did have the foresight to put in solar paneling, a very extensive program which really lowers the heating cost of the building from, it used to be over $1,000 a month to heat. Now it's like $300 or $400 for utility costs, so it's reduced it significantly. Insurance, property taxes. It's quite complicated. I mean, not just anybody can take care of this stuff. You need specialized people to come in when there is a problem, which is a kind of a pain, but that's the way it is. So Rod of Iron Ministries, like I said, we're trying to figure out exactly how to divide the areas, but it could include the King's Report, Peace Police, and then the tech team. So those are various, why it's important from an expense side, we need to categorize everything. So we want to begin to monetize everything, like the King's Report eventually will be making a lot of money through advertisement. Right now it doesn't, but the King is laying the foundation for that. So the King's Report will become much more profitable than the Alex Jones show, for example. And soon there'll be millions of people tuning in. Right now there's only like 1,000 by the end of the week that have tuned in. But, you know, everything starts from somewhere. And the King, I would say, you know, when you think about the King a year ago and how he does now, it's a huge improvement over the course of the year. He's really a very much a high-level professional when it comes to broadcast. So I think, the Spirit of God is working, and really wonderful guests. Lourdes is doing a good job getting really high-quality guests. Just like the King was talking today, he's, this Second Amendment Christians are really the people that God's going to depend upon during the mid-trib and the last days. So those kind of people are coming forward, and they have absolutely no problem with the AR-15 providence and the Crown providence, because they're very comfortable with firearms. They're very comfortable with the Bible. They're strong Christians. So, the ministry that the King is developing that's really the target audience. That's the audience for the King's Report. And the Peace Police, Peace Militia, same thing. It's the palace is not the perfect place to host a lot of activities. It's in a private residential area, but the King feels very strongly about the palace being used for this purpose. So next year we're going to be developing a dojo on the property, and it will be a place where this kind of activity can expand a little bit. So the King's Report, there's certain infrastructure there. To set up a full studio, it was really nothing before. It was just a private office before. So to make it a functioning studio, it took about $32,000 to get everything up to speed over the course of the year. And Andy's very, I would say Andy's very conservative. He likes, he finds very good deals online for computers and monitors and things like that. And then everything has to be kind of approved before purchases are made. And then we do have, the checks and balances on our financial. We have the financial committee on the front end, and then on the back end we have myself, Susan, and Chizuko evaluating expenses as they come in. So there's a lot of eyes looking at our expenses. It's not just like one person making a decision. There's actually goes through a committee, and we actually want to expand the financial committee to incorporate other people from other countries. Not exactly sure how that's going to work out, but I just want everybody to know that from the financial side, it's a lot of people who are very concerned about expenses are looking at things. So there's no careless expenses. There's nothing is handled in a nonchalant kind of way, because I think all of us understand how hard it is to earn money. It's everybody works hard for their money. So when we receive donations, we want to make sure that the money is being well spent. And sometimes we just get a mandate from the king. There's really no choice in the matter. We got to do this. So in that situation, we just have to respond. So you can see some of the technology here in the King's Report, the microphones, the cameras. Wouldn't you say they're doing a pretty good job, the staff at King's Report? Thank you, Misha. And who else is there? Andy and Shinman, Young Pyong. Actually, Robert Carvel is there oftentimes. We're really lucky to have Robert. He's an expert in the area of audiovisual, works in Manhattan at the highest level. So ABC News and the Manhattan Center for years. And so God has really provided people with real skill set. And of course, Robert's used to working with much bigger budgets, but he's very understanding on our limited budget here. So Peace Police, there's some of the expenses. The trek was an important part of the training. Then the Jeep, you heard about the Jeep today. I was wondering if I should show this, but since the king already did it today, I'm not stealing it. So this is going to be done by a local company who has a lot of experience doing vehicle wraps. There's different vehicle wraps that they can, just like anything, there's low quality vehicle wraps and then there's high quality vehicle wraps. So we're going to go with a company that made a living doing vehicle wraps for years, and they have a lot of experience. Right over in Port Jervis. So we get to support a local company. So this is a kind of a summary of the Palace and the Rod of Iron Ministries. And all of this really comes from the generous donations of our brothers and sisters, you guys. The Providence can only move forward on some level of financial backing. Really, very little can be done without finances. So a lot of contributions coming in from Korea and Japan and really all over the world. And then the local congregation helps out. So I think it's important to know that every dollar spent here is supporting the Three Kingship Providence. And the reason the Palace was able to even come about is really because people are willing to give their hard-earned money to support this ministry. Yeah, that's the yearly operating cost is yearly, and that's mortgage and includes mortgage and utilities and taxes and So the ceremonial robes and crowns. We'll just go into that. So this year we purchased the original crowns from the foundation, and I have to preface really. All the work being done at Sanctuary would not be possible if it wasn't for Kukchanim. Kukchanim, really, he's our most generous donor by far. Let's hear it for Kukchanim. He has the foundation was created years ago, and it's through the foundation in which he gives to support the king. So the foundation came up with the money to originally purchase the crowns when the king and queen were crowned. That was 2015, I believe, right, Tim? 2015, the crowning took place. And he actually gave the donation for Sanctuary to then take that asset off of the foundation books and put it onto Sanctuary books. So again, a lot of the money that is able to do what we do come directly from the foundation that Cookchinham manages. So it's really a marriage between individual contributors all over the world, including yourselves, and Cookchinham's effort with the foundation. So this is these robes, just to give you an idea. I think those were $10,000 each. They're beautifully embroidered. I don't know if you saw close up. Yeah, they're hand-stitched, made in Korea. Just beautiful works of art. And then these are ceremonial crowns, that meaning they're not made of pure silver and diamonds, and they were made by William Gage, using good material, but not precious metals and precious stones. Again, in the last minute, I mean, William got word, I think, in the end of August, because this was all, it was like directly revelation from God, the position, True Mother and 923 all came upon us extremely quick. And so William stepped up and spent day and night making these crowns. They weren't even actually finished on 923. He had to take them back and finish them, but he was able to complete it to enough of a degree to be able to. He actually came 10 minutes late to the festival, to the ceremony. We were all like biting our fingernails, like, is he gonna come? Is he gonna come? We were getting text messages on where he was the entire time. So, but anyways, the event was able to take place. Truly a historic, once in an eternity event, and everybody stepped forward. All the preparation work, just a huge amount of effort to make that happen. So Sanctuary, this place, was a really, really rundown building. This building, Robert probably knows the best of anybody here what this building was like. The roof had huge holes in it. There was water just coming through. All of these panels were warped. There was mold. There was water. This used to be like a moat, literal moat around this stage, and the water would kind of come up when it rained, and it was just a mess. The whole thing was a mess. Very cheap. Yeah, we got a good price on it. They say if you pay cheap on the front end, you pay dearly on the back end. And that's really the way it was. The roof itself was over $70,000, $75,000. We redid the ceiling, all the lighting. A lot of this lighting was, all the walls were done. New insulation was put in. Drainage out in the parking lot. Heating and cooling. Yeah, you remember those who were here early? We'd all come in with our winter coats in here. In the wintertime, it would literally be, we would have these propane heaters throwing in flames of heat just so people could get through service. I think the king enjoyed it. But it was like 10 degrees warmer up on top, which was probably like 30 degrees, and then you come down here, it's like 20 degrees. But yes. Oh. So anyways, through, a huge amount of financial investment, we're able to get this building up to where it is now. And again, Robert and Rio and a lot of people put a lot of time and effort into the lighting, the staging, the sound equipment, all of this stuff. That's another area when I was reflecting 2 years ago, Sunday service compared to today, there's like no comparison. It's really on a whole new level. And a lot of that comes through, financially investing in the infrastructure to make it, because we always feel here we're not servicing just our local community. We're really servicing the global community. So we need to do what it takes to make it a good experience for everybody out there. So now we have Sunday service, Korean service. We have a full homeschool of 10 to 15 kids, depending on the day. Youth activities and a Bible study here now. So it's a pretty, we got offices in the back, right? That's our headquarters office, which it's a nice space to have for the king when he comes in, to have a place to collect himself before coming out for a public ceremony or Sunday service. He's able to, it's a very nice space. Has everybody been in the back? Yeah. If you haven't, I encourage you to go into the back and check it out. It's paid for by you, so it's really, really nice. Grimm Construction. Peter Van Gelder did the design work on that, and then Grimm Construction did the actual build out. And it's very nice. We have our studio back there too for what's that called? For editing. AV support for editing the broadcast. Kitchen improvements. I think we have one of the best food situations of any church anywhere, and it's not an ideal kitchen, right, Elka? But every week they pump out enough food to serve 200 to 300 people. A lot of it to Elka, Martha, Shriman, all the help every week that comes in. Yeah, every week. And then we also, I don't know if you know this, we have a volunteer staff that comes in once a week and does detailed cleaning. Again, these are all precious assets of our Father and Second Kings. So there's a group of volunteers that come in on Wednesday, either Tuesday or Wednesday, and do detailed cleaning of the entire building. So that's another, King was talking about unsung heroes. That's another heroic group. We'll give recognition to them. Fire safety and security. So there are certain things that are required in a public building like this, and fire safety is a huge thing. So the town won't actually give a certificate of occupancy until fire safety codes are met. And so we were able to meet all of those codes and qualifications, and we worked with good people to get that done. So now we have a fire alarm system that's hooked up to the local fire department. So if there ever is an accident here, then we'll get immediate response. But that, again, all of that costs money. And security system, Doug organized a good security system for the building. So, and that, Doug is, he's a security expert. So he brings his whole lifetime experience working with Father and security at East Garden, different places, UTS, and has brought it here. So we're, again, another very qualified person to bring a knowledge base here to protect the Second King and the Third King. Yeah, so those are some of the expenses. The heating and cooling was $40,000. Back office was $152,000. Roofing was $75,000. Stage sound equipment $40,000. So I'm going to turn this part over to Tim. Talk a little bit about the legal area.
Okay. I have 4 areas within legal to talk about. The King mentioned briefly in his sermon today about how he was called to a deposition, and how 20 lawyers questioned him for 10.5 hours. And so in preparing for that, we hired a lawyer who spent a day with the King to prepare him for the deposition. And this lawyer also accompanied the King to the deposition. This is a way to protect our King. And we got the bill on that as a little over $7,000 for that. And now I see Jesse Edwards' name up there. We have two situations regarding Jesse and Tanya Edwards. When the King first began in 2013, as Greg has mentioned, it really had no foundation, and he wanted to conduct a ministry because Father had come on the foundation of Christianity, a ministry that connected with Christianity. But he really needed help in doing that. And Jesse at that time stood up, came forward, and he said actually that Father had asked him to take care of his son, to take care of Hyungjinim after he had passed. And so he and Tanya came, and at first the idea was that Tanya would teach Sunday school or something like that. So they started working, but they said, okay, we'd like to go there, but in order to work with you in Northeast Pennsylvania, we need a house. There's got to be a house, and our credit is poor, and so we can't go to a bank, and so you got to work it out so we can get a mortgage for a house. And so actually the Youngjin-moon Charitable Foundation, which Kuk Jinim leads, provided that mortgage so that they could purchase a house in Hawley. It's in Hawley. It's actually, if you go to Hawley and then go up onto the ridge, it's a little bit beyond Hawley. If everyone has been to the Cricket Hill Golf Club, there's a golf course up there, and it's very close to that, within easy walking distance of that golf course. And he purchased it for, but anyway, the mortgage for that was $320,000. And Youngjin-moon Foundation provided that at a 4.5% interest and 5-year 4.5% interest and monthly payments calculated on a 20-year amortization schedule, and it was a 5-year balloon payment. So that worked out to where he was paying about $2,000, barely over $2,000 a month to the Youngjin-moon Foundation. And Youngjin-moon did this because in 2013, the Sanctuary Church did not have the cash to provide that kind of a mortgage. But by 2016, we did have the cash. And so it was decided that, Youngjin-moon really they're not really in the business of mortgages, all right? Since they had done this on our behalf, and by that time, as you know, Jesse and Tanya had moved on by the summer of 2016. So it was decided that that the Sanctuary Church it would be better to take it over ourselves. And if there were any problems with the mortgage, that we would be responsible for resolving those problems. And there have been problems with the mortgage, both last year and this year. Last year, it turned out that they had not been paying property taxes to Wayne County. It's in Wayne County. And so the county was getting ready to sell the house for the taxes. And so we discussed this with Jesse, and as it finally turned out, Jesse was able to pay enough of the taxes to avoid that tax sale. And then this year, so we took over the mortgage in the summer of last year, July, I believe. And he started paying that $2,000 to us. In other words, we purchased, so we gave the cash to Youngjin-moon Foundation from Sanctuary Church, the remaining principal and so forth. And we took over the mortgage, and he started paying us the monthly payments. And he did that through the late summer and autumn and early winter. And then in February, he stopped paying. And he has not paid since February. And so I looked up the law and studied a bit about how to foreclose. And and actually the law is written so very much in favor of the debtor, of the person. Usually I might feel good about that, but in this case, I'm representing the creditor. So it's been a bit, because you have to send them some paper or notice and then wait 30 days for them to respond and da-da-da-da-da. Pennsylvania State has a program where they call the homeowners emergency mortgage a program, something like that. And he has a right to apply for that, and da-da-da-da-da. And finally now, though, we are at a point where a judge has made a judgment in our favor, and the sheriff of Wayne County has scheduled a sheriff's sale on February 7th. Of course, this is all public information. This has been published in the newspaper, and that's also one of the requirements. And also, if you go into the Wayne County Sheriff's website, you'll see that they have a whole list of sheriff sales, and then there's one there where it says Plaintiff, World Peace and Unification Sanctuary, Inc., Defendant, Jesse Edwards, Tanya Edwards, and then let's see, it's being it's being sold for about $292,000. And it'll be an auction, and most likely, no one will buy it. So the property will come to us. That means that we will become the title holders. Right now, Jesse and Tanya are still the title holders of that property. It's their property, but likely in February it will come to us. But even now, Jesse has certain rights under the law. He has the right to, if he wins the lottery, he has the right to pay off that mortgage. Or he has the right to pay all those about 10 or so payments that he has missed, plus some penalties for late payments and stuff like that. And he can do that. And then and the law requires us to then accept that. And so if he wins the lottery, he can pay off the mortgage. I calculated this on November 27th. At that time, it was $302,000. And if he wants to cure the loan, in other words, by coming up to date on the loan, he has about $25,000 or $26,000 that he would have to pay us. So barring his being able to do that, and I do have some indications that even now he's trying to find someone who will give him a mortgage. He's operating an Airbnb business out of that house now, and so maybe he wants to continue owning the house. He's trying, it looks like, to try and get a mortgage from someone because he's asking for information and stuff like that. So anyway, we'll see what happens, and we'll keep you up to date on that. And then, in addition to the house, in 2014, in February 2014, Jesse says, you know what, okay, got the house, but I need a car. So this time, we didn't go to the Young Jin Moon Foundation. This time, the Sanctuary Church itself gave him a loan of $23,000 to purchase a 2011 Buick Enclave, a four-wheel drive. So he was making payments on that. And those payments continued, but he has not paid now. He stopped paying, and he has not paid October or November payments. And I communicated with him, and his position is that there's about $5,200 left on the principal. It started out at $23,000. It's down to $5,200. And his position is that yes, I signed a document saying that I would pay off the entire principal, but prior to that document, there was a verbal agreement that I wouldn't have to pay $10,000 of the principal. Now, this is something that only he seems to remember, and even if it were true, I don't know, this may be a new precedent in contract law where a prior verbal agreement supersedes a written contract. I don't think it'll fly. If he wants to go to court, I think we'll be glad to go to court, but I don't think that's going to fly. I think the written contract, that especially because it's written and also comes afterwards, is probably going to be stronger, even if that such a verbal agreement existed, which only he seems to remember that it does. So I've contacted a repossession agent, and we have the repo man out looking for his car. And if anyone sees a Buick Enclave, license plate JNM 4949, please call me. Pennsylvania license plate, Buick Enclave JNM 4949, please call me, and I will have our repo man go out and pick it up. And then the repossession agent will sell it, and they will take their fees, and they will give the rest to us. And then if it's not enough to pay off that remaining principal, then we will go to court and get a deficiency judgment, and we will see what other assets he has that we can that we can perhaps target to get this money. As you know, as Greg said, this is all paid for by your money, and you guys, my money too, and we all work very hard. $5,000 may not seem like a lot. But the way I see it, let's suppose that everyone in Sanctuary Church donates 10% of their income. I know that's not true, but anyway, let's suppose that. That would mean that in order for us to donate $5,000 collectively, we would have to collectively go out and work and earn $50,000, right? And someone says, okay, no, Tim, it's not 10%. No, it's not anywhere close. It's only about 5%. Okay, in that case, collectively, we have to go out and earn $100,000 so that we can donate that $5,000. Isn't that true? So to me, that $5,000 represents $100,000. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to let him get away with it.
Thank you, Tim.
He wants to, he says, as you know, I have to assume that people who are on the other side of these legal issues are also watching this video, so I have to be careful maybe what I say. But just to let you know, Jesse, you're not going to get away with it. And we have a very good repossession agent, and they're looking all over for it. Now, the fourth area, maybe more serious, that is the trademark area. And Rio, would you play that video, please? I created a video on this some time back, and I want Rio to play this video, and then because it gives sort of some of the previous history, and I will pick up my presentation today on where that video leaves off.
Hi, this is Tim Elder. I'm the World Mission Director of the World Peace and Unification
Can we see
Sanctuary.
the images, please? We only hear have the sound.
A slideshow on the opposition to the Family Federation.
We need to see the images, please.
Register the term, the theological term, Tonyuguk, as their exclusive trademark.
That is the image. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, my mistake.
First of all, the content of the Family Federation application made to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office is that the mark Tonyuguk will consist of standard characters without claim to any particular font style, size, or color. So in other words, whatever font is used, whatever size is used, whatever color is used, it will all belong to the Family Federation's exclusive trademark, if this registration is actually approved. And they've applied for 3 classes, including an international class. And our lawyer advises us that the fact that they've applied for an international class likely indicates that their intent to register this trademark not only in the United States, but in other countries as well. And they've given the English translation of Tonyuguk as one application. And according to their application, the Family Federation application to the United States Patent and Trademark Office, these are the various ways in which they intend to use this trademark. And so any kind of worship service or funeral or wedding or workshop or any kind of religious activity, this will be used, and no one else will be able to use it without their approval if the trademark is finally approved. And this is the timeline of what has happened so far. The Family Federation first made their application to the United States Patent and Trademark Office in September of 2015. And in March of 2016, the World Peace and Unification Sanctuary hired a lawyer to write a letter on our behalf. This is a letter of protest which was sent to the USPTO office, and it is now a part of the file of this application. And you can see that letter by clicking on the link that is given here. And on April 5th, 2017, the USPTO notified Family Federation that their application had met the minimum requirements for registration. And then on April 25th, that is last month, the end of last month, the USPTO published the trademark in what is called the Trademark Official Gazette. Now, publishing the trademark does not mean that it has been approved. Publishing it means that people who oppose this trademark now have 30 days either to file a notice of opposition or request an extension of time to file that notice of opposition. The Sanctuary Church has not filed an opposition until now because the legal process did not give us an opportunity to do so until April 25th. But now we are working in conjunction with a lawyer to do exactly that. Now, who is affected by this? So if this registration is issued, no one will be able to use the word Cheongguk without approval from the Family Federation. Violators may be sued by Family Federation for the triple amount of damages, monetary damages that they claim. So this affects anyone who thinks they may want to use Cheongguk sometime in the future without going through the process of receiving approval from the Family Federation. So I ask you, is this a good idea to give the Family Federation such leverage to dictate how people choose to express their faith? If you don't like that, now is the time to speak out. For example, if we want to print a copy of the family pledge, we cannot do that. Why? Well, we would have to bleep out the words Cheongguk. Our family, the owner of bleep, 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 pledges to seek our original homeland and build the kingdom of God on earth and in heaven, the original ideal of creation by centering on true love. Our family, the owner of bleep, 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 pledges to represent and become central to heaven and earth by attending God and true parents, etc., etc. This is what will happen if Family Federation is able to succeed in publishing, in actually registering this trademark. So who has standing to oppose this attempt to register Cheongguk as the exclusive trademark of Family Federation? Well, according to the laws and regulations, anyone who believes they may be damaged by this trademark being registered to Family Federation is able to do so. The deadline for contacting the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, actually it's called, there's an appeal board, that is what it's called, Trial and Appeal Board, is May 25th. So you need to act quickly. But you can easily apply for an extension of time. I'm told that the Trademark Trial and Appeal Board will grant a 30-day extension pretty much automatically to anyone who requests it. So you can do that. Or if you need more time than that, you can also, if you have a good reason, you can apply for that as well. But this is a tremendous event here that I think will affect a lot of people, and I hope that people will take an interest. There is a petition that some people are circulating on their own, and that I think you can find that on Facebook and on other venues, and you may be interested in signing that as well. So thank you very much.
All right, so to update you, as I mentioned in that video, the initial deadline for filing an opposition was in May. Then under the rules, we were able to apply for a 90-day extension. We did that, and so the extension was, the deadline was extended until August. And so in August, we filed a notice of opposition. And I wanted to read a little bit about what we said in that notice of opposition. Notice of opposition, opposers, World Peace and Unification Sanctuary, Inc., Unification Sanctuary, South Africa, World Peace and Unification Society, Kenya, World Peace and Unification Sanctuary, China. Do you know we have WPS in China? It's in Hong Kong, but it's in China. 세계 평화 통일 성전, Seoul 성전, that's the Korean Seoul Sanctuary, and James Borer, collectively the opposers, assert that they will be damaged by the registration of Cheongguk as applied for by applicant, Holy Spirit Association for the Unification of World Christianity, DBA Family Federation for World Peace and Unification applicant in the United States Patent and Trademark Office. As a result, opposers oppose registration of Chandraguk on the USPTO's principal register on the grounds stated herein. And here to give you some of our reasons. Reverend Sung Myung Moon founded Holy Spirit Association for the Unification of World Christianity in Seoul, Korea on May 1, 1954. Prior to his death in September 2012, Reverend Sung Myung Moon appointed his seventh son, Hyungjin Moon, to carry on his religious work following his death. However, immediately following Reverend Moon's death, his widow, along with other leaders, chose to disregard this appointment. Further, they changed some of the core teachings of Reverend Moon. By the way, all this is online. In fact, I'm reading this directly off of the Trademark Trial and Appeal Board website. In an effort to remain faithful to his appointment and to his father's teachings, in March of 2013, Hyungjin Moon broke with HSA UWC and created a new ministry named World Peace and Unification Sanctuary. World Peace WPUS believes Reverend Sung Myung Moon came to the earth as the returning Jesus, that he is alive today in the spirit world, and that he works specifically through his son, Hyungjin Moon, his appointed representative, to bring salvation to all humanity and to establish God's his physical kingdom on the earth. This kingdom is referred to as Chanryuk. The term Chanryuk is used frequently in religious ceremonies, in daily conversations, and in materials produced and distributed by WPUS. Chanryuk has been used continuously since the ministry was founded as a continuation of Reverend Moon's teachings. In the spring of 2015, Hyungjin Moon began anointing persons to build affiliated organizations in Japan, South Korea, Europe, Central America, South America, and Africa. By February of 2016, more than 3,000 families representing more than 10,000 people around the world had registered their support for Hyungjin Moon's ministry. That number continues to grow. Followers participate in religious services in Newfoundland, PA, and online. Chanryuk originated from Reverend Sung Myung Moon himself in his sermons given prior to his death. It is a religious and theological term that plays an essential role in the faith of everyone who is inspired by the work of the late Reverend Sung Myung Moon. Chanryuk was first used by Reverend Moon in a sermon delivered at an early morning prayer service held at the Busan Lotte Hotel on November 1, 2001. Reverend Moon again used the term Chanryuk on November 12, 2001 at an early morning prayer service held at Hannam International Training Center in Seoul, Korea. After these sermons given by Reverend Moon, Chanryuk, or Kingdom of Heaven, became an integral part of Reverend Moon's teachings. It has been used for many years by followers and leaders of the faith in the United States and around the world. All opposers actively use the term Chanryuk in conjunction with their religion. And then the notice goes on for various, to give a list of various legal reasons. So that, by the way, was not written by me. It was written by our lawyer based on information that we had provided. Now, in this, so what has happened then since August is that now in September, 30 days after we filed our reason for opposition, HSA then responded. And then they basically said, we don't know anything about this. You know, we deny everything. We deny. And then in November, we had a deadline to then give a list of sort of what we're going to present as evidence, and who are the people that we can call on to give information about this. And so now this has turned into an actual litigation. It's an actual litigation, and in this case, we are the plaintiff, they are the defendant, because they tried to register Chanryuk. And by the way, we would not have known about this except for really God's inspiration to one sister who is an expert in this area. I don't know if I should mention her name online. It's Masako Ando. She's a patent lawyer in California. And one day she was just wondering, as I understand the story, gee, I wonder what mischief Family Federation is up to. And she just went on to the USPTO database, and wow, just a week ago they had filed this application. So we would not have known about it. They would have just snuck this right through. And but she discovered this and notified us. And we watched and waited, and actually they had some trouble in the beginning because they submitted some materials to the USPTO, and USPTO said, no, you submitted the wrong stuff, try again. And they actually had to make, I think 3 times, I think they had to go back. And finally, USPTO said, okay, you've met the minimum requirements, and so we will publish this for opposition. In other words, it's still not registered, all right? They still don't have, this is still not their property. This is still not their trademark. So it was published for opposition, and that means that people who don't like this, who don't want this, then have the opportunity to oppose it. And that's what we're doing. We're opposing it. And because we're opposing it, we are the plaintiff. And then they are the defendant. And right now, this is a regular court situation, but it's a little bit different from other cases in that the court is not a district court or an appeals court or anything like that. It's a court called the Trademark Trial and Appeal Board. Now, we started out with one lawyer that was introduced to us by Carr Arms because this lawyer had helped them with some of their trademark issues. And but it came to a point recently where she said, you know what, this thing is getting too big for me. We need help. And so now we've hired another lawyer, a more expensive lawyer, who has tried cases before the TTAB, and we're now working with him as well. So now we have 3 lawyers on this situation because he has an assistant. If we were to use only him, it would really be very expensive because he charges more than $500 an hour, and his assistant is not as much as that. And so we are now going through this situation, and Kukjinim, you know, he has had a lot of experience in trying, you know, in defending his patents because he had 7 patents on his guns, and people kept trying to infringe on it, and so he would often go to court to defend his patents. So he has experience in this area. And his assessment is that this may cost us $1 million. This case may cost us $1 million. Now, we don't have $1 million. Now, at least. But I asked the king, is this something that you want to do even at the cost of $1 million? And the king said, this is a matter of God's word. We have to fight for God's word. We're not fighting for assets. We're not fighting for the organization. We're fighting for God's word. Because True Father inherited the word of God to Hyungjinim. HSA wants to use secular law to nullify that inheritance and claim this Cheonryuguk, the term Cheonryuguk, for themselves. Now, the rules, there are all sorts of rules, and the rules require that we discuss a settlement. Maybe, hey, you know, why don't you guys get together and discuss this out of court and come up with an agreement, that kind of thing, right? So that was mentioned, and their lawyer said the only settlement that her client would accept would be if we acknowledge that HSA owns the trademark, and then they would license it to us.
What? Absolutely not.
That's what the king said. Yes, that was a non-starter. And so we're going at it. And we have not spent a lot of money so far. In total, right now, we've spent about $15,000, including, not all of that was this year. Part of 1,000, I think, or so was last year. But this is going to get expensive. It's going to go into the tens, hundreds of thousands, and perhaps by the time we're finished, it might go into $1 million. You know, there are First Amendment issues here, right? Freedom of speech, freedom of religion. So who knows how far this may go? It may go to the Supreme Court. It may, the cost could become an extremely heavy burden for us. But I think that we really need to, I think this is a fight that we need to fight. This is a fight that we need to fight. So I hope that people will understand that and that I know there are people who don't like their donations to be used for legal expenses. I would like to ask such people to consider making an exception in this case. This is not a fight over assets. It's not a fight to try to preserve the organization. In fact, we may have to sacrifice the organization in order to win this in the end. And maybe this is their strategy, make us spend a lot of money on legal fees and make us go bankrupt that way. But even if they do, we can form another organization. That's not a problem. We can always form another organization. But this will be over the next, in 2018 and beyond, this will be a major thing. So we hope that, I know that I am totally committed, and I hope that others feel the same way. I think the only way we can lose is if we give up the fight, if we stop fighting. I think if we decide to just leave the battlefield, that's the only way that we can lose. Because we have God's word, we have the lineage, so we can win if we just keep on fighting. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
Apparently, the TTAB's record is that they normally do not give legal costs to the other side. Each side pays its own.
Does this impact the symbol at all? Is it only the term?
This is only the term.
Okay.
What do you mean what do you mean symbol?
Tongil mark.
That's another situation where we have not had much difficulty until now. What was it, 2016 or 15 that they closed down?
15.
2015, Family Federation actually they did not contact us directly. They contacted YouTube, and YouTube shut down the King's personal YouTube channel because of the Tongil mark. But actually Family Federation asked YouTube to shut down both the King's personal channel and the Sanctuary Churches channel. But YouTube chose to shut down only the King's personal channel, and that's still closed. He cannot access it. But other than that, we have had no problem with that, and we have no communication from the Family Federation about that.
Yeah, Tim, could you, just for everyone's background, explain that the Tongil mark is already registered and owned by the Family Federation and such?
I don't want to acknowledge anything.
Don't want to acknowledge. Okay, but their deal is they filed a protest of use. Is that correct?
Like I say,
you don't want to acknowledge
they're watching this
anything.
video. I don't want to acknowledge anything.
Okay.
I don't know why you would stop me, officer. I have no idea why you stopped me.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So Jesse Edward, what has to do with that?
Jesse Edwards, we have the mortgage that he's not paying and that we're foreclosing on him. That's one legal issue. And there's the car payments that he's not making. And so we're out looking for his car. That's the other issue. That's why his name is up there. Well, yeah. Yeah, well, we'll see, yes. Any other questions about the legal issues? All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Tim. So the next category of expenses are ceremonies, holy days, and workshops. That came to last year $138,000. So there's, I didn't put all the holidays up there, but this also includes blessing and ancestor liberation. We had the OSDP workshop, seminar, translation is another line item, DP road trip, camps. And then we had just from September 1st to end of October was $68,000. That was a pretty rigorous 2 months That included Father's Seonghwa ceremony and 9/23, and then in October, what did he have in October? Was that Ancestor Liberation? Yeah. It was a really very busy time. Was Ancestor Liberation? Okay. Yeah. So with every event, you know, there's obviously, just like with the palace opening, a lot of expenses go in to making the event really beautiful and special. And then the blessing ceremonies. These are all things, you know, the holidays, you know, we started off not doing all of the 8 ceremonies, but this year, 2017, the king really wanted to restore those holidays, to celebrate all of them. And so that's something we started to do this year. And aren't the offering tables beautiful each time? Thank you, Miho. And her army of volunteers that help her. But that's really, you know, really, we are a world church here. You know, I can't emphasize that enough, where people tune in online and they are really seeing Father's legacy and tradition being upheld here. They can't find that anywhere else. Father can't even be spoken in family federation circles. You know, it's like an insult if you say true father. You have to say true parents, which really means the Han mother. You know, so.
Ideally, we should, or in the future, we will be doing everything that was being done in the Chongpyeong Palace during Father's lifetime, you know, with that same degree of professionalism and sincerity and dedication. And honestly, we're still quite a ways away from that. But in 2017, we were able to do all the holy days plus others, and that was a big step. And it was really a big challenge. But it was a challenge that we took on at the beginning of this year, and we were successful. So I'm really grateful to God that we were able to do that. As we are the world headquarters church now. The headquarters church is not in Seoul, it's not in Chongpyeong, it's here in Newfoundland, Pennsylvania. And so this is where we need to show the model of how, or the model of how things should be done. Fortunately, we've received a lot of guidance from Korean members, especially, and they say that we're still light years away in their assessment, but we can continue to improve. Continue to improve, and I'm sure that Father is very happy to see the way that we are improving, and I'm very grateful for his patience and for his forgiving love.
You. Thank you. That's really true. So we had also, as this was a significant event in really breaking, you know, to be able to have revenue here, to be able to preach the word, OSTP word, on a world level, and this was quite a monumental event spiritually. It was also a very expensive event, and again, people's contributions went to fund this kind of activity, which really, from the King's point of view, you know, teaching the word is a very, very important part of what we should do and what we are doing. So that's, and then this has launched a world level campaign of revenue going around. He just finished speaking in Japan, and I think he's going to be traveling to different parts of Europe and Russia. Russia's the next place. So translation work can be quite expensive, just for the OSD translation, and also the book Tears of True Father is over $8,000. Just to, you know, it's quite a process to take the Korean word and translate it into English. But once it's done, And then we have this incredible truth that's able to be used in all English-speaking countries. So again, it's an expense we bear the burden of here, but ultimately the entire Western world will be able to benefit from that translation. Then we have a website that comes to about $2,000 to $3,000 a month on average to manage the two websites. And I think, you know, the websites have played a very important role in helping brothers and sisters understand to have one place that they can go to really get all the information they need to understand what has happened in the last 3 or 4 years. So that's, we've been putting money into that. And it's also the place where people can go and register for OSTP, for various camps, blessing workshops, all sorts of things. I'd like to just jump ahead now and talk about a project that's coming up in 2017, 18, 19. I don't know if people can't really see that. Is there a way to zoom in on that, Rio? You might have heard the King talking about Peace Ninja. This is a project that is quite a large project, and just like the legal fees, we don't really have the money to to afford it. We're kind of going forward in faith because it's something the King feels strongly about, is to have a place to be able to invite people to learn about the kingdom culture. And this will be the eventual, this is Car Arms property here. This is the Tommy Gun warehouse, Car Arms facility here. This will be, and I'll talk more about this project in January or February on how people can get involved in this project. But I just wanted to kind of do a broad paint stroke on it now. There'll be several components. One is like a vision for housing. So the King has been talking about becoming landowners. If you would like here, or if you're in Japan or Korea, wherever, if you would like to invest in land on this future property, then this is the property here. We might have anywhere from 20 to 50 home plots here, maybe 1 acre plots of land that will be able to be purchased, and then people can build a home here. So this will be like a unification community on the property. This is Wells Road here. This is Route 6 over here. So there's a swath of right there that we can begin developing as early as next year. This area here, this yellow area, the hope is to build a very large community center. And this will be a place where we can have large gatherings of up to 1,000 people, and then have a supporting campground and campground area around the community center to host visitors coming into the area. So part of the campground can be a tiny home community. And again, people could invest. Say if you're you have a little bit of money and you would like to invest in this project. So you say you want to invest in a tiny home, and the tiny home investment is $70,000, say. Then you can actually purchase that tiny home and put it here on this in this tiny home community, and then you can receive income from that tiny home through the Airbnb model. So people visiting the area as Unification Sanctuary grows worldwide, people will want to come and do training and want to be able to hear the King, be with the King. Then your investment could then be used through an Airbnb model where you could receive your money back and more over time. So you could charge maybe $50 a night, $75 a night, rather than going to the Comfort Inn and spending $110. You can stay in a really nice home for $75 a night and supporting being in this community that will eventually populate the area. And there'll be another yurt village, like Mongolian yurts. Again, if you wanted to be an investor in that, you can invest 10, 20, 30,000, depending on the size of the yurt. And again, the Airbnb model could work there as well. and then cabins, and then it'll also be a traditional campground too. So if people have an RV, they can come here. And it wouldn't be just necessarily for our own sanctuary brothers and sisters. It could be the Second Amendment Christians that the King was talking about today. You know, people who want to come, they want to go to Tommy Gun Warehouse, they want to get involved in some of the recreational activities that we're going to be offering on the property, then they can stay there. And so the idea is to go beyond the boundaries of our own limited sanctuary community and expand this global foundation of Second Amendment Christians that are prepared to receive the returning Lord. And I think that's the effort of this property, is to really make it a place like an epicenter where people can come, really learn about the Peace Kingdom culture, be with the King, train with the King, because there's a whole other aspect of this, and that's up here, which involves all the training arts that the King is talking about, from BJJ to tactical training. There's going to be a Tough Mudder course on the property that we're working with Vetstock right now on developing an obstacle course on this through Tom Ryan's group. He wants to have his race held there in 2018. So that's going to be, and then when they're not using it, we can use it as part of our training grounds. And what's really beautiful about this property is that it borders all this state land. So here we can have access to, I think it's like, how many acres is it? Additional 25,000 acres or maybe more. It's a huge amount of public land here. So that can be used for survival training, for mountain biking, hiking, trail running, all sorts of outdoor activities. And so this campground will eventually draw people in from all over the country and world, where then they can come and stay at the campground, participate in all of the Peace Police, Peace Militia training that the King is now developing at the Palace, can then be expanded to this property, and then hundreds of thousands of people can then be trained on site under the King's leadership. So it's really an exciting project that there'll be an opportunity for people to invest in personally, and it's not just giving, but there'll be returns on that investment. So you could rent out your yurt. You know, there's really nice looking yurts for $15,000. You can invest in that, and then year after year you get money back on that investment. So it's, and then you can stay there, of course. Say if maybe you live in Ohio or something, then you have a place to stay every time you come to Sanctuary. So you have your own cabin, your own tiny home, your own yurt, whatever level you want to live in, then you'll have a place to stay. Or you can invite your friends or family and friends to stay there while you're not there. So this whole area is going to be developed by veterans. This whole tactical training course, people like the chief, for example, will be very involved in developing a tactical training course. Tom Ryan's group, he knows a lot of Navy SEALs and Green Berets in the Pike County, Monroe County, help us develop this course. I'll talk more about that at an upcoming town meeting. Right now, we're doing the feasibility study on this right now, so it's a little bit premature, but it's going through the Kiley Associates right now, and they're making sure that everything is zoned properly. There's going to be proper sewage, proper water, environmental issues, all that's going on right now. So we've made that commitment toward the feasibility study. That should be finished by the end of the year. So I wanted to, also we want to try to encourage everybody to do a monthly tithing. This doesn't work for everybody, and we understand that, but if you have the ability to get on a monthly tithing program, so there's 3 ways to do that. One is the current system at PayPal, where they have whenever you make a donation on our website, they have a box here, make this a monthly donation. So you can click that, and then the only downside to this is that you need a PayPal account in order to do this. Go ahead. You don't, you can just, they'll just take it from your credit card? Yeah. Okay, because I tried doing it, and they wouldn't allow me unless I had a PayPal account. Okay. Not American Express? Hmm. Okay, good. That's good. And then the second way is through your bank, just like you would do a reoccurring payment on through your bank account. Then we have several people that do that now. We just receive checks automatically every week or every month for people who have set that up at their bank. And that's actually, there's no cost involved. Like when we do PayPal, there's a percentage that they take out for their services unless it's done through the Giving Tree.
So can I talk about
Yeah, you can talk about that.
PayPal, you can give through the regular PayPal, or you can give to what's called the PayPal Giving Fund. And if the advantage of doing it through the PayPal Giving Fund is that, as Greg just said, if you do regular PayPal, they take 2.2% plus 30 cents per transaction. So, for example, on a $100 donation, 2.2% is $2.20, plus 30 cents is $2.50. So they take, out of $100, they will take $2.50, and then we will receive $97.50 of your $100 donation. The advantage of PayPal Giving Fund is that PayPal pays for those fees. So in other words, if you give $100, we get $100. There's no fees, transaction fees taken out. The disadvantage of PayPal Giving Fund is that they do not give you an option, an automatic monthly donation. An advantage of PayPal Giving Fund is that they do allow anonymous donations, which you cannot do on the regular PayPal. You cannot do through checks, right? Your name and your address and stuff like that is there. But if you give to the PayPal Giving Fund, then you can click something that will keep your name and address and stuff like that from coming to us, and we will not know who was giving. We have no way of knowing. And some people do this. I don't know, family fetters, I don't know what. But anyway, some people do exercise option. I think that's good, that people, they don't want their names known, that's fine. We don't need to know their names. But giving through the PayPal Giving Fund, although it does not give that monthly automatic donation option, it does save us money. It does save us money, right? Because we don't have to make those fee payments to PayPal. It's 2.2%, and if you're overseas, it's another 1.5%. So the fees can add up. And already we've saved thousands of dollars this year because people use the PayPal Giving Fund.
Great, thank you. And so the bank is, it takes just a little bit of effort. You can do that online, or you can go into your bank and set up a reoccurring payment. And then the third option is Easy Tithe. That's a church-run opportunity. You want to talk a little bit about that, Susan? Would you mind? Yeah.
As soon as it's coming out, can also mention bank wires. Bank wires. Some people do donate through bank wires, especially people overseas do this. Generally, bank wires are expensive. I know in the early days, someone in Japan donated $100. The banks took $50. But there's also something called TransferWise. People in Europe, especially, are beginning to use TransferWise, and this is also a cheaper way to send money to the States.
Great. Thanks, Jim. Well, not to confuse it all, but we thought we wanted to maybe do one other way of giving, and it's this organization that was founded by churches called Easy Tithe. And this organization is now about 7,000 churches are using this online system. And it allows you to set up an account, to make donations both from your checking account or from a credit card, to set up recurring charges, also to designate your money. If you wanted to go to a particular project, you can do that through this. We can set up a project or a campaign on this website, and people can donate to them as they want. So this will just give another option. We'll see how it works. We're going to be setting that up over the next couple of weeks and give you more information about it. There probably will be some fee if you use your credit card, the same as PayPal. We'll also evaluate that and compare it to how PayPal is doing. But the other fun thing about this organization is you can download an app on your phone and you can make donations. So if you feel inspired on the fly, or for those of us who forget to make our monthly or weekly donation, we can do it right on an app. And we thought this would be a fun new tool, particularly for our younger millennial audience who really love to use their phone to do all their business. So we're looking forward just to getting kind of another stream. So not to confuse, but to just give you lots of
More
options.
options, yeah.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, easy. Yeah, .com. You can go and take a look at it for yourself, and eventually we can show you how to just set up a little account there, and you can self-direct it as you want, which is kind of a fun way to do it online. You can see where you're, and it'll track the donations for you and for us, and it'll be helpful for us too. So, great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So just in conclusion, I wanted to just express gratitude, for everybody who's contributed to do everything. 2017 was a whirlwind year, a remarkable year, and I think we all appreciate the King and how he has stepped forward and made things happen. And financially, as we all know, Father was, he needed enormous sums of money to do what he accomplished in his lifetime. And the second king is no different. He's going to require a huge amount of resources to accomplish everything. So I just, when I was researching tithing the last few days, what came out for me is the importance of putting tithing as a priority in life. Sometimes it isn't the first thing that we think of when we say if we receive a paycheck from where we work. We don't necessarily think of tithing first, but I think when you research Father's words, that's really the heart of the offering. The heart of a sacrifice is it should be a top priority and made with utmost sincerity and devotion. And that was kind of a good reminder for me, because sometimes I think we can get, maybe in the West, very casual. Oh yeah, okay, I guess I got $100. I'll give that to the church, But as I was reading Father's words and praying, I really felt, wow, tithing is actually, it is the most sincere. It should be an expression of our sincere heart of devotion to God. And when we receive money from our labor, then the first of that we should think of God. We should think, how can I help God in His building of His kingdom? So these are some quotes that kind of accentuate that, the purity of the offering, not just reaching in your pocket, oh, what do I got left? I'll give that to God. But really being thoughtful and intentional about it. And that's where the reoccurring donation comes in, and you really think, okay, this is, Tim mentioned 10%, Father's mentioned up to 30%, 10% for the nation, 10% for the world mission, and 10% to headquarters. So, but 10% is the King has talked about 10%. I think it should be very intentional. We should try to be intentional and prayerful about our tithe. And, I just wanted to end this particular talk with the importance of tithing and the kind of heart we should have when we tithe. It's not just a matter of tithing; it's the heart in which we tithe. I think that's That's the key point, and it's not the amount in which we tithe, but it's the heart and the devotion, the sincerity when we do tithe. So thank you very much, and I don't know if there's any questions. We can kind of open it up now. If there's any questions, general questions or specific questions related to this presentation. We can always count on Robert.
Thanks. Thank you. No, in the very beginning, you said there's two organizations now, World Peace Unification Sanctuary and the Unification Sanctuary. The question that comes to me is, can you mention the officers of those corporations, and are they the same?
Tim, do you know off the top of your head?
I know, maybe Susan.
Oh, yeah, maybe Susan knows.
I mean, are they the same? What goes through my mind, are they the same people? Are they different people? Are some the same or whatever? I mean,
Some are the same.
some are the same. Who are they? You know, I mean,
The World
put a
Peace
name out
Unification
there.
Sanctuary is a 3-person board. Our king is on the board, and Jim Borer is another member of the board, and Chua An, who is a Korean second generation who lives in Korea, and he's very, but anyway, he's on the board. He's very a good person. He's on the board. Those are and then Greg is he's not on the board, but he's secretary treasurer to the board, and that makes him an officer as well. And I don't know about the Unification Sanctuary. Hyung Jin was on the board? I think Shimpal Shinjun.
Generally related in the sense of this common board members.
It's a good question. I'm sorry we don't have greater clarity.
Don't have it with me. If somebody wants to email me, I can.
Yeah.
It is public record.
Yeah, it is public, yeah. Right. That,
Any recourse on the structure of the board for the executive committee that can vote people off the board, for example?
the board.
Yeah, like,
Do you want to make a formal question?
I'm just curious. Yeah, so, we've had this controversy in the church recently about purpose of organizations, et cetera, related with sovereignty and kingship and that type of issue, right? So Robert brought up the question about two organizations with a board, right? So is there an executive committee on these organizations that can be composed of other members, let's say, who then have an annual meeting, and then they could vote on changing people on the board, for example? Or is it just a closely held?
Answer is no.
So then, does the organization then, having their bylaws, having to have an annual meeting and re-elect those board members? That kind of how it works?
The organization may have it's a Delaware, WP, I think they both are Delaware corporations, and so they have the bylaws that are required by the Delaware law, and probably there is an annual meeting.
There's an annual meeting requirement, I believe. But there's no specific rules around the placement of the board, so it's a self-perpetuating
Right.
board. It votes itself in and keeps itself in until it decides.
They can sort of decide if they wanted to vote someone off the board.
Why would you want to do that? I mean, what does the board do that you don't like?
Well, I don't have any, I'm fine with the board, I'm just,
But are you thinking like another group could?
no, because I'm referencing my own personal experience a few years ago with a closely held board, which I was part of, and then the other three guys didn't like me, so they voted me off the board. So then the point was, though, that because I had other people who were supporters of me, if there had been not that we were in inherent conflict, but as I was building this organization, then naturally I had supporters of myself, but I had no protection when these three people got jealous of me. So that's because the structure of that particular organization was just a closely held board that had an annual meeting and they voted themselves in or out. So, I mean, I think in reference to our situation here, we have this issue in our community about what is the real purpose of the organization and to what extent do they exert power over the rest of the general body. How does the general body of members participate in the organization? How do they influence it or the direction of it? So I'm not really personally invested one way or the other. I'm just sort of listening to God and doing what I feel is right. I guess that was what I wanted to ask.
I think the board, in this case, has very little to do with the actual management and operation of the organization, which is done more by the king and by the and he acts on recommendations that he receives from various sources, including from the finance committee. You know, with the board, I don't want to say mere formality, but there's not much that the board does. You know, sometimes legally certain resolutions are needed, and so they pass. You know, they come up with you know, whatever resolutions are needed, but I can't really see the value of changing the board so that people could be voted on and off by an executive committee. Maybe others can, but it doesn't. It would seem to be trying to fix a problem that doesn't exist to me. But you know, because if people want to participate in the management of the organization, it's much more. It'd be much better to target the finance committee. That's where a lot of the real discussions take place, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Or in these volunteer meetings that we have.
Yeah, volunteer meetings, the round table.
Round table, yeah. Yeah, that's where the management of the organization actually takes place. You know, around the round table each Sunday, that kind of place. Yeah. Hey, what about this?
Okay, so maybe somebody, Janine? Janine can go ahead.
Hi, you know me. I'm Janine Kahashi. Okay. A bit shorter than Robert, so. All right, so when I first heard you were calling this meeting, I was a little disappointed because it seems you were just, focusing on the financial things. And I feel like at the beginning of the year, we had a big focus on the Crown Providence and the citizenship issues, and then we're ending this year on just money issues, so I'm a little disappointed. But anyway, so I don't know who set the agenda, but I'm a bit disappointed in that. The other things I wanted to get into, so you didn't mention Sanctuary Academy, but you did go into something else new that's coming up. So, you know, I've been thinking about this, and as you know, David was at Bluestone for a while too as an intern, and my understanding is Bluestone is a separate, privately owned, is that right? Or it's an LLC, is it? Or what is it?
Well, it's actually owned by the Greg and Elka Knoll.
Okay.
Right now. In the future, there actually is a Bluestone Farms LLC, but it's not really, it's legally set up, but it's not functioning as there's a Bluestone Market LLC. But anyways, it's really
it's a private business.
Yeah, private,
okay. So Sanctuary Academy is, from what I understand, it's a ministry. And so we have a situation where you have a ministry is a non-profit thing. Usually it's not for profit. So you have Sanctuary Academy set up with church, official approval, and you have it advertised in the Sunday service, and you have a button on the website and a link, and but basically it is run out of Bluestone, right? And with Shigeru as the director or program manager. So you have a mixture here. You have something to be a ministry, but it's being basically given to a private business, you could say, or, well, person. Okay, so, which is fair enough. You can subcontract things like that. But here's the problem. You have an academy that is being given to a private business, and the person who's giving it, or who's on the board that's giving it, happens to be the owner of that private business, and that's you. So you are basically merging your two interests. You know, of course, I know, look, Bluestone is a wonderful farm. It gives good opportunities to people. I'm not saying you don't do a fairly good job there, but I'm saying this looks like an obvious conflict of interest to me. And you're heading into touchy territory with it. We're in the first stages here of doing business things and whatever. And that can be, in 10 years, a real problem. So, you know, you didn't open it up. I mean, I don't live right here in Pennsylvania, but I'm saying it's really what Bluestone is the homestay part, okay? And what Shigeru does with the King's activities are the academy part, really. And that's what people come for. They come for the Kingdom Academy. So you're merging two things, and you're also merging your interests, private interests, with other people's interests who are paying public money, who are donating, actually, being asked to donate. So you have, this is tricky territory, even financially, I would say bookkeeping-wise as well. You know, we should be clear about these things. And also, I mean, people should know out there, they don't have to come and pay $2,000 for 2 months stay at Bluestone to do these activities. They can go and arrange private, you know, accommodation, but nobody's telling them that. So some people can't afford that. You know, a lot of people can't afford that. If you have 2 or 3 kids that want to come, you can rent a very nice house in Pennsylvania for that kind of money. You can rent a really nice house, you know, and a car as well. So I'm just putting it on the record for people who are listening out there. It's not meant to be a monopoly on sanctuary kingdom activities. And we're not trying to we shouldn't be trying to centralize them. But it appears like that to me. Maybe I'm wrong. But so I'm saying this is a little touchy. We're supposed to be free market. We're supposed to be non-centralizing. We're supposed to be going the opposite way of family fed. So that's a big problem, I think. It's a problem, you know. Okay, so that's one thing. And I see a similar problem with this, you know, this other project that's coming up. Again, people are being asked to invest, and it's going under a centralized structure. Somebody who is a friend of somebody will be the director or whatever, and people will be asked to invest. Actually, we're meant to be owners of businesses, owners of properties, owners, you know, and there's a reason for that. It's so that you don't get pushed into behaving a certain way, you know, with your assets. So, so yeah, I'm a little skeptical about that too, but I don't know what it's going to turn into. The other thing is, with the Dojum coming up, and you said it's, you know, you're discussing that. I don't know who you've decided to do it, but I know a couple of other things have been done by Peter Van Gelden. Now, Peter is a business associate, and he is an investor at Bluestone, right? Mm-hmm. Yes, well, I'm sure he's a capable person, but there's another conflict of interest there. Those kind of things, when you do that on a town level, you have bids for projects. You take in bids. And then people, somebody, some board or something looks at those things and decides, okay, I like this design at this, and you don't have one person giving you 3 different prices and 3 different designs. You take bids from other people. So, I want to say, I see this stuff going on. It looks like crony capitalism to me. It's the first stages of it. Now you can make excuses. Well, we're small. We had to do it in a hurry, but we're setting the stage for the future. We're going to be family-fed light if we're not careful. So we got to be clear, and we got to make a good standard now. So, that's basically what I have to say. Okay.
Thank you. You want to talk about Sanctuary Academy? You think you could talk about that? Because I don't want to talk about it.
I understand.
I mean, I can talk about it. It's better if it comes.
Correct me, though.
Yeah, I'll correct you.
Jean, thank you. I think it's important to relationships very clear. I agree. My understanding is that Sanctuary Academy is a sanctuary activity. The fees were set by the leadership. Money is being paid to the Sanctuary Church for this program. As part of that, there is a budget to support the, is this correct? Support their homestay
homestays, yeah.
piece to Bluestone. And I think it's important for us to make sure that that's a fair amount, not an excessive amount, not an unreasonable amount, not a competitive amount, But I don't have it right now, but I think we could provide that.
We can make that public.
So, part of the budget for those students coming on is for the cost of their training, for the costs of the time for Shigeru to lead it. It's for supplies, and it's for food and housing that's being provided by Bluestone.
Well, actually, by families that
are living there.
live at Bluestone.
Right.
But it's not Bluestone itself. It's
No, so the other families will also benefit by having homestay academy members staying in their home, and so that's part of it. Well, it's
a program.
There's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with, I think, the church having a central academy. I think in my mind, Janine, it just seems like some organization and structure is very helpful right now to be able to sponsor this kind of organization. But anyways, this is my understanding of how the activity is.
The main activities they come for are provided by Hyungjanim. The second king, he's giving them as he's offering them. They are not for sale to...
For the benefit and the cohesiveness of the program, I believe it's been set up this way so that this group can remain together and go through the program together.
Yeah.
And so the setting is Bluestone.
I understand that,
and so
but
not just Bluestone will benefit, but also the other families who are going to house those students will benefit too.
It's okay to have that, but it's not okay to make a monopoly on it because people... our second gen are coming to these things anyway, and there are people staying at other people's houses, coming and participating, but they're just not calling it Sanctuary Academy. But I want people out there to know.
Nobody's forbidding anybody.
No, but nobody else is putting it on the website either. Yeah. Nobody else is standing up in the front and asking for donations either. To do that.
It will be a different experience, if you're living at somebody's home.
It would be, but I'll be honest with you, the experience from some of the last interns, now that they didn't have Shigeru, was not all it was cracked up to be. So, it's again a case of you're asking more money, you are giving somebody lead it full time, that's good, but I don't know. I don't know if necessarily charging more money and putting the stamp of the king on it is necessarily going to lead to a better program. But we'll see. We'll see. But I don't think it's right that it is kind of centralized through Bluestone unless you kind of make it clear that that's not the only way for people to participate. So you need to kind of get that out there, I think.
But
You
isn't
know?
it true that in this first academy, that it is structured that way? I mean, that's just the
Yeah,
way
I
it
mean,
is
it's-
structured,
yeah.
and I think it would be reasonable to assess that at the end of the program to find
Sure.
out what worked and what didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
It's somewhat market-driven, for those who want to participate. It's not a requirement, so.
Yeah, I mean, they'll be sharing meals together.
Yeah.
They'll be doing hiking into the
Yeah.
woods together. They'll be doing firearms training. It's not just going to the palace and being with the king. There's actually, Shigeru is designing a whole curriculum and program that's really going to evolve around people being in a close proximity to each other. It's not just showing up at the palace
Yeah, and a lot of the money from that program that they're asking will be diverted to your farm or your
No.
group of people. Well, it will be.
Maybe
it will be.
It will go to homestays.
Yeah,
some
which
of
you're
that.
basically, which is centralized under you.
No, Herwig has his
No, those
property.
homes are individually
Neil
owned.
has his
Yeah.
property.
I
We're
know.
not like a commune. We're all individual landowners.
Not a commune, more like a cabal, I would say, the way it's organized, not a
Oh, really?
commune.
Really?
But I mean, if you price fix things, it's a kind of like a cabal. But anyway, I'm just saying what it looks like, and people don't need to necessarily pay that to come and have the experience. Young Genome has never said they have to go through, quote unquote, Sanctuary Academy to come and train and things like that. So, I mean, people need to know that, and I think it's fair, because if you don't have competition, you basically are going to cut out a lot of people from that. So, I think we should open it up more
Yeah,
and let
I
people
just
know.
want to make it clear, this is not a Bluestone program. It is a church program, and which is different than last year and the previous year. Just hear me out.
Yeah.
So it's fundamentally different this year, whereas before really a Bluestone Farms initiative. This year we decided to really make it a sanctuary focused activity and really bring on full-time staff to really run the program. So yeah, we made a lot of mistakes last year and the year before. There was some successes, some victories, but
Yeah.
a lot of failures. I'll be the first one to admit that. So I think the effort to really bring it under the sanctuary banner is to give the students a better experience, And Bluestone is really just housing the program. It could be held anywhere, really, if you wanted to.
that's what I
wait a
mean.
minute. If you wanted to have it at your house, you could do that. If Robert wanted to have it,
Jersey.
I'm not at all opposed to that. I certainly would be the first one to encourage that, but we're offering it at Bluestone. That's, to me, it's an offering. It's not. It's certainly not a moneymaker. And we can make the books very public. Sanctuary program, so the book should be very public and transparent. Nobody's making money on it.
Yeah, I think the books should be. Yeah.
What's that?
The books should be public
Yeah, absolutely.
with this. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Shigeru,
Yeah.
he's not a volunteer for this. There's certain expenses that need to be covered in order
Yeah.
to give kids a better experience, because in the past we have relied on volunteers and it was very incomplete. So certain programs require paid staff in order to have like an NGA program in the past, or those were all programs that were highly organized and gave kids a real concrete experience, a life of faith.
But you don't see a problem with the fact that you, as the director for Sanctuary Church, basically use the Bluestone. What do how
Well, I
you
try
would
to
say
be
it,
as transparent as-
congregation. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever. You basically, what it looks like. It looks like a conflict of interest. So,
So,
And-
Greg, how much profit are you making from this personally?
Bluestone itself might make $500 a month for renting out the facility, which will go into improvements basically for the program. That's the extent of the profitability, and then the homestays is another. Maybe I can give a whole breakdown of the expenses, but
yeah. But Bluestone is for profit. But anyway, we know it's not a non-profit. So you have one non-profit, profit,
Yeah.
And
the
you're the director of
$500,
two
goes
things
toward
there.
taxes, it goes toward utilities. and,
Yeah, I
you
know.
There are
I know.
expenses. It's not like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm keeping this $500. Probably when you add up all the expenses, it's maybe
Well,
$50 or something.
So it's not $500 profit.
It's not 500
It's
profit.
$50
no.
profit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't done that level of detail for our expenses on the farm, but there's a lot of expenses. Yeah.
Well, anyway, there's.
But I
there might be
encourage, how
some more
about this? I
things going
encourage
on.
everybody to start a program if you feel inspired to do so. I mean, I think
that's a good
everybody
idea.
does
yeah.
feel.
Yeah.
I think everybody feels free to.
Well,
to
can
do
they
that.
all advertise it on there? Are they? Can we all
Sure,
in the front
probably could,
and
yeah.
ask for donations?
Yeah.
Send
Really?
the announcement to Mary
Why
Ann by
not?
Friday,
Yeah.
please.
Really?
Well,
you know?
I'll put one caveat, which is that, yes, of course, everyone's invited to do a program, but the
Yeah.
program has to be presented. And then if
Yeah.
the church if it's a reasonable budget and they think it can work, you want to go to Janine's farm to do this opportunity.
farm, sorry.
Okay, well, I'm
Yeah.
just saying,
Yeah.
it would be subject to the same scrutiny that
Yeah.
this program was subject to, so that it would
Is
ensure.
it subject to scrutiny?
Well, absolutely, it
Sure,
was subject
yes.
to scrutiny. Of
Yeah,
course
I've
it
discussed
was,
with the
you
king
know.
on multiple occasions,
Yeah,
cooked to him,
yeah.
the international
Well,
meeting.
they
It
didn't
wasn't
ask
just
anybody
my
else's
idea.
opinions. I don't think they've asked any
Well-
other interns for the. I don't know.
I mean, right now, I'll say this
Previous
one thing, though.
interns.
We do have to remember that this is the king's church,
Yeah.
you know,
Of course,
and that the
yeah.
king sets the tone and the
Yeah.
direction and the leadership. And because he's so open, he receives many different, you know,
Yeah.
applications to do activities. So, but I think ultimately, you know, he puts his stamp on something that is a program of Sanctuary Church. And so that doesn't mean that this can't be the only one. This is just the beginning.
No, I know. This is
And
the
every time we
beginning.
do a program, we have relationships with centers all over northeastern Pennsylvania.
Right.
So it's, I mean, that
Well-
public-private, I don't quite understand that argument because.
Well,
we
conflict
couldn't
of
sub-
interest. Let's put it that way.
But there is no conflict
There
of
is no
interest.
conflict if it's an arm's length agreement and if it's
Well,
very clear.
I
And
think there is. There's a conflict of interest there.
No, there
is.
isn't. If it's an arm's
Well-
length agreement, how can there be if it's an arm's length agreement and that it's a reasonable cost? And I don't actually see that, to tell you the
I mean,
truth.
I see it. He's the director of the church, basically subcontracting to his.
Well, there is no subcontracting
Well,
here,
it's.
right?
I don't know how else to put it because they're using that facility, and that's a private facility. I mean, that
Right,
looks
and
like
if
a
we-
conflict of interest to me. I don't know. And plus, I don't know. You have a role in the program too, probably, unless Shigeru just
No,
does
well,
everything.
I'm there to help. I'm an advisor.
Okay. Well, what about the dojo situation? Is that going to be? I mean, how are we going to deal with that? Are we going to have bids? Are we
Yeah,
going to?
Yeah, we got bids.
Okay.
We always get 3 bids. That's the way in which we do
Were
it.
there any bids on the other things? Any of the other?
Almost every major expense gets 3 bids. If it's major, if it's over, say, $5,000.
Okay.
Then
And
it's
So,
the financial
I
committee.
have a question for Janine. If it were held at another workshop center that had nothing to do with the church,
yeah.
but was a for-profit, would that
Yeah.
still be a conflict of interest?
It could be
Why?
if that were a friend of somebody.
No,
doing
I'm just
someone
saying,
a
have
favor.
nothing to do with the church, has nothing to do, and friendship, I mean, come on, what? If
No,
I'm
no,
friends with
okay,
someone,
okay. No, look, no, it's not. It's not.
is friendship illegal?
Friendship is not illegal, right? Okay, right.
And then my next question is, if the price that that Bluestone charges would be the same or similar to what this other outside organization would charge,
Yeah.
is that a conflict of interest?
No, because you've
No.
taken more than one bid, then, haven't you? I mean, you've
No,
looked at other
it's not
things.
a conflict of interest.
Yeah, if you've looked at
So
multiple things.
if the price that Bluestone is charging is what any other workshop center in the area would charge or similar to that, then I personally don't see your argument.
Okay, so you don't think there's a problem with somebody being the director at the church and giving money which is from our members to, centralizing something, a project,
And it's
a
not centralized,
ministry.
is it? It's not centralized because
Well,
people are
it's-
staying in different people's houses.
Yeah, and they're all on Bluestone. They've come to an agreement
No,
with
they're
their
all
part.
individual property owners.
Individual
yes,
properties.
they are, but they are still part of, you know, the
Your
Bluestone
cabal,
community
well.
or whatever. Okay, maybe cabal's a bit strong, but I don't think it's totally too strong, actually, because it doesn't take much to create that. But it's just, I mean, anyway, you don't see that? You don't see that possibility?
Well, I'm happy you brought it up, and I think, you know, we should be as transparent as
I mean, that's
possible,
kind of-
you know?
I see an obvious conflict of interest.
I call it an offering.
I guess it depends on other. I guess it
Probably
depends on
gonna
other members.
Okay,
Other
well,
members
it
of the
could be.
congregation.
We'll see. You know, I don't want it to become
let it-
something
I
that
want
later
this-
on, 10 years
I want this program
down.
to be evaluated, and
Good.
if
Okay, good.
we improve it each year, that's the ideal.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
we'll see. But
Yeah.
you know, I'm just saying, I'm watching.
Sure.
You know,
Good.
just so you know,
No,
I'm
absolutely.
watching. I'm
know.
watching
We
because
know.
I
We
don't
know.
want it to turn like in 10 years, 20 years. I don't want people because of their, you know, I know somebody or I'm in there early or I'm the director or something to suddenly be doing what some people in Family Fed are doing now. You know, all right. So.
Yeah.
And they would say,
I
would
would
have
love
said
to
the
have
same
more.
thing.
I
in
would
the
love to have
beginning.
more farms, more
know?
people offering programs. I think that'd be great.
All right. Well, let's open it up. So now we know, now the world knows you don't have to go through Bluestone to study with the king or to learn the kingdom culture. So they should know that. And they don't have to necessarily pay, being asked, I think it's $2,000 or something, which a lot of people can't afford. Okay? So let's put it out there.
Okay. I can understand your concern. But I think also we should know a little bit of the background of the relationship that Greg has with the king. In the first year the king was here, he was doing a regular permaculture education series at the lake house. I attended, Greg attended, and there's a long history of trust and common sense of purpose that Greg shares with the king. Greg is very instrumental in herbal and holistic health. Very early on, he was contributing a lot of very good education and good information on dietary, support for a healthy lifestyle. And so ever since the king came here, I think there's been a very close sense of purpose, and there's a very deep trust foundation that, and then of course Greg and Elka, with great personal expense, really put themselves out there early on to even just to purchase the Bluestone property, invested a lot. And I'm not saying that they should recoup their, if you'd let, yeah, I don't want to get sidetracked, just stating some facts that they've made a great personal commitment to establish that, and they've been honored by the king. They've used the facility quite a lot for advancing church activities, the testimonies, evenings, and so I think that that's a part of this, that there's a great trust and a common understanding, and that Elka have a lot of trust from the king. So, as things go forward, I don't think that, I've known Greg for quite a while now. I don't think he's trying to, personally, just my personal opinion, I don't think he's trying to take advantage of his position and problem it personally. I don't see that. Could things change in the future? I really don't know. But I just wanted to make those comments because it's not like he's just using his closeness to the king to set up a business opportunity for himself. I think he's genuinely trying to serve the greater purpose. Anyways, just wanted to toss that out.
Thank you.
Done? We done? I was really disappointed that the case didn't go forward with the discussion because I was really looking forward to a
You're
discussion.
talking about the Jamal and...
Yeah, I didn't want to mention names,
Okay.
okay? But,
Okay,
you know,
the case,
who
the
I
famous
love
case.
and love everybody. I like to think we're all on the same team, number one,
Mm-hmm.
okay? That's number one, okay? Secondly, I was really disappointed that that case didn't go forward, right? Because I remember 30 years ago when I was chosen to be with the American Freedom Coalition, we stood in a room like this with 50 state coordinators, and we had this phony discussion, right, about are we going to be a national organization or a state-based organization? And at that time, we were talking about the Second American Revolution. It was Bohee Park up there, right? And I was one of the states' rights guys. So I got up there from Massachusetts State Coordinator and said, I believe in states' rights. So this was a discussion at the Constitutional Convention in 1787 about states' rights versus a national government, which later on was a discussion between Jeffersonian republicanism and Hamiltonian nationalism. You all know this, right? So part of what we're doing is repeating that, but I was really disappointed that we didn't do it because even the discussion now, Janine, you're kind of neglecting the fact that we are not a pure democracy. We're not just like sovereign citizens, kings and queens as individuals in our hometowns. We are also monarchy. And so we're trying to work out like how we relate with the monarchy. And I really was looking forward to that discussion as that case came forward, because we are discussing that. And this topic came up last week when Dan Johnson was here at the table there with the king and Kuchinen. And so the point, they had a very animated discussion about the role of the king. And so we kind of, as a community, like something happened and there was a break, and then some people are staying away, and some people are pointing fingers saying they and us and them. And I wish really that we all could get off that and start from the point that we're on the same team, and then be honest with one another, and then be able to discuss these issues which are important. What do you think about that? You think that's a good idea? Think that's something that people are up for?
What,
Is this a venue to do that?
you mean to bring that case
Well, like,
up?
where are people?
Hmm?
Where are people that decided to stay away? Jamal's group.
Mm. Robert's
here. I mean, I don't know who's with whose group. I'm not with anyone's group. Okay, I like to think we're on the same team.
Yeah.
Definitely on the king's team. Like I've said publicly many times, I've come here to attend the king. That's something very special and unique about us. We're not a pure democracy, not a pure monarchy. It's not just about, being sovereign kings and queens in our own areas and not having a centralized organization. We're attending the second king of Chonel Guk. We're doing something very special, very specific, which really involves, in my mind, a negation of self, a religious practice of negation of self, to allow God's will to come forth, centered on this providence. And what I saw in 40 years of the church with leaders in front of Father, there's always a tendency to assert our own opinion in front of Father, in front of the Messiah. But that's all I wanted to say. And I don't know if anyone has anything to say about that. If it makes any sense at all. But I'm telling you right now, I'm on everyone's team. I want to feel that we're on the same team. And to my dying breath, I hope I'll be loyal and attend the second king of Chonel Guk. Pure heart. And living every day with a vigilant attitude to separate myself from self-centeredness.
Beautiful.
That's all I want to say.
Richard, you want to say anything about that?
I agree with everything you said.
Yeah, I think we're taking a break. As the king said, we're taking a break, and Jamal's taking a break. And, he's sorting things out. And, You know, I think, I don't really know what to say, you know. Tim, do you want to say something?
I don't know if this is related to what you said or not, but let me give you my rant. I hope that we can get away from, and I really want us to get away from sort of the permission culture. And maybe this is more, you know, your states' rights position. Well, let me give my rant first. Let me focus on what I'm about to say. We are, you know, we are a free association, Blessed Central Families, each of whom should have or do have their own ministries. So we are all out there doing things. We are all out there doing things. And we don't need anybody's permission to do these things. You know, some people still come to the king, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? And the answer is always the same. Yeah, sure, we take responsibility. There's really no need to go to the king, but people don't yet know this. They think they have to go to the king to get somehow his stamp of approval on something before they can go forward. But this is a time when we are kings and queens, when we can, you know, but of course we have to come up with the finances, we have to come up with the resources, which is true even if, you know, in any case. So that's my thing. I was reminded of that when you spoke.
Sorry, there's one more comment. Thing I want to ask. I want to ask if anybody apologized to Kristen after the last meeting we had, in which she was practically asked to go home. Sorry. I mean, I think I said somebody should, because she was, I think, treated pretty badly, and I doubt that she or her family are going to come to another meeting again.
Yeah, okay, so I guess I didn't say anything, so this is my chance to make it to the international level, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, so there was some discussion about what happened at the last town hall meeting, and I realized myself that we actually needed to have a little bit more thought into the moderation.
Yeah.
I think Lowell did a good job, but I realized that we should have been more clear about in the future. I mean, today was a little different because there was a lot of financial reporting, but in the future, the moderator actually will be information about how long each person has to speak, and then possible extension period of that, and then that way one of us here on this stage, we won't have to intervene as a moderator. The moderator will actually be the real moderator. And I did apologize to Kristen myself.
That's good.
Okay, so yes,
Okay.
that's
But, well, you weren't really the one who was.
Well, anyway, I mean, nevertheless, I expressed to her that, as far as I'm concerned, anybody from any part of the United States, probably any part of the world, has a right to come to the town hall meeting and express a viewpoint and ask a question.
Right.
Although in the case of Kristen, because we weren't clear enough, you know, she went beyond making a short statement and asking a short question, and it became it went longer than it should have. But if the moderator had been more in charge, then I think in the future we'll be able to have give people a real chance to not just ask a question, but also express a viewpoint. But it'll be a little bit moderated more one person won't go on for a long, long time. They'll be able to come back, and if they have other questions. So, but anyway, I think we're going to do a better job in the future. And since I was a person who you inspired to Janine, I want to give credit to Janine because she suggested the idea of a town hall meeting, and I want to thank her for that. Okay, so
actually, I wasn't the first one to mention it to you. I know that there were. I think Lila had mentioned it to you. I don't know if anybody else had. I think she told me that in a comment that.
Oh, I see. Well, you're the first person who made it past my brain barrier.
Maybe. Well, so I wasn't the first one, but yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I just want to thank you, and so I think it's a good thing for us to do, and get information out and try to be honest, and where we're not being transparent enough, right. I'm sure you and others will let us know, and then we'll get the more information out.
Okay, that's good. But I thought she was singled out. Actually, there were other people who were taking a long time, and she was the only one who someone said.
Anyway, I just want to make a statement right now. Anybody in the sanctuary community has a right to come to the town hall, and whether they're a local member or someone from another state, they have every right to come and
they should.
And express themselves within the guidelines that are established and ask questions. Okay, I just want to say that to Kristen and anybody else.
Kristen, yeah.
Yeah, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, it's after 6 o'clock. Any other urgent comments, or Robert?
Thank you, Ted, for speaking of the gorilla that many people have. But I just want to make one comment. The whole situation of the formal court case and that, it's a non-issue anymore. It's run its course. Okay. The other thing is, and this is just for me personally, I just want to state, when people say what group you're in, it drives me nuts. Okay. There's only two groups. There's God's group, there's Satan's group. When we start looking at you're in this person's group or that person's group, I think we're missing the point altogether. So from someone who really had a dog in the fight, so to speak, it's run its course. The king was very clear on his desire. Various people had various desires, but people chose the actions that they did. And we have to live with that result. Okay? Whether things were resolved or not, ultimately we have to resolve them in our hearts. But I just want to say this to everyone here and everyone in the world. It's run its course. It's time to move on. Thank you.
All right, thank you all. Maybe we can conclude with a prayer. Bill, are you feeling up for a prayer time? Yeah, you're okay.
Heavenly Father, thank you that we could, brothers and sisters, the banner of our true Father, that we could wrestle together with building your kingdom. We could roll up our sleeves, Father. We could shed our tears and we could bare our hearts with one another in these times, in this forum, in our personal lives, in our community. Father, let us be bold and daring, and let us live a life that is a bold and daring adventure, Father. Otherwise, it is not worth living at all, for we are at a time where boldness and daring are really required, Father, to break through the molds that exist in our minds and bind our own hearts. Father, please, we pray we can all escape from Satan's snare that is all around us. Every moment, Father, we must pray and chant always, as Jesus taught us. bless our gathering and our going home this evening, all our children and families who are about. We pray for your kingdom come, Father, as we bear our hearts and as we share our voices and as we reach out into our community. Let your kingdom come, Father. We thank you for this gathering and for the blood and sweat and tears of brothers and sisters in the first and third generation around us. We're all, Father, to stand here at this moment in time. And bless our second king, Father, who boldly stepped forward and rescued our providence that was adrift, Father. And we pray that we can each do our part to boldly step forward in our own families, that we can stand up in the forefront of your providence, of your purpose and meaning to our days, to our lives, to our communities. We offer prayer and other prayer for you in the goodness of your offering on behalf of our families gathered here.
Jude. All right, thank you all. Thank you.